Welcome to the Dreamboat. Remember, you can join the DRI for just £30 a year. You get access to more content, including videos and discounts for our events. It's a great way of finding out more about our work, joining our dream community, and supporting this podcast. Details in the show notes and at driccpe.org.uk/membership.
Welcome to the Dreamboat podcast, a place where we talk about everything dreamy, all you wanted to know about dreams and where you might find some answers. My name is Laura Payne and I'm a psychotherapist and associate of the Dream Research Institute, the DRI, here in London, England. And I'm joined by fellow psychotherapist and TV presenter, Melinda Messenger.
Hello, I'm Melinda Messenger and I'm also part of the Dream Research Institute, and together we're a group of dream weavers and catchers, and we're called the Dreamboat because we are recording our podcast by the canal here at Little Venice in London. So listen out for the ducks.
I love talking about dreams, working with them and exploring them. So join us for this fortnightly series when we'll be looking at dreams, talking to experts in the field and answering your questions.
In the show notes, you will find ways of getting in touch with us and the team via the DRI website and on the standard online places such as Instagram and Facebook. And our social media links are all in the show notes. So let's now get on with the episode.
Well, welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us. And also, welcome back, Dave. It's really lovely to have you on board the Dreamboat again.
It's very nice to be here. I love what you've done with the place. I don't remember all these dream catchers being here, but enough about that. It's really lovely to see you and be back aboard.
Yeah, well, we'll apologise now for the dream catchers, but they have been a bit of fun. So, if you come off board, then that's what happens. Anyway, it's really nice to have you back. And today we're going to have a dreamy look at all things Jungian, which, as you know, is one of my most favourite subjects. And because we've had the great opportunity to interview Lisa Marchiano from the very popular podcast, This Jungian Life, and I think you've got a bit more news for us, Dave.
Yes, indeed. I am very pleased to announce that Lisa is going to do an afternoon workshop with the DRI at CCPE in London on the 9th of May. She's going to be delivering an exclusive Jungian dreamwork workshop, and she'll be working with participants' dreams, so it's going to be experiential. She'll be offering some clinical interventions for therapists who are looking to enhance their dreamwork skills. And it's all based on the book, which we're about to talk about as well, Dreamwise, that's coming from This Jungian Life team. So she'll be talking about the keys for dream analysis that are in there and a few other things, and just responding to questions. And she's going to sign some books while she's there as well. So for anybody who wants to hear a little bit more about it, you can sign up for our newsletter via our website, which is driccpe.org.uk. If you sign up for the newsletter, that's where we're going to first announce the tickets. And it's going to be a maximum of about 30 people, so very few tickets. If you're interested, make sure you get your place right away. Hopefully, Laura will be there and Melinda and me too.
Yeah, well, that's just such an amazing achievement. And obviously Lisa's based in America, so to be able to grab her while she's here in the UK, fabulous. Well done, guys.
I believe the word is synchronicity. It's all worked out really wonderfully.
So let's find out a little bit more about Lisa Marchiano and her team's book called Dreamwise, which has come out of their work in This Jungian Life podcast. So it's a huge welcome to Lisa Marchiano, one of the three great presenters of this Jungian Life podcast. She presents, obviously, with Deborah Stewart and Joseph Lee, but I'm really thrilled to have you, Lisa, here. It is a great honour. And when you told me that you also listen to the Dreamboat, I felt thrilled.
Yes. Yeah. It was so lovely to get your email because I'm a big fan of your podcast. So
thank you. So Lisa's here because obviously the three of them, after running, I think, have you run this Jungian Life for 6 years, did I hear you say?
yeah, it's since 2018. Yeah, it's been more than 6 years.
So the team have put together, based on Jung's work, a new book called Dreamwise, which I have loved. Before we go in, Lisa, just tell everyone how you came about this Jungian Life. How did the three of you get together?
So we're all clinical social workers, which is one of the main kind of mental health licensures in the United States. I think it's a little different in the UK, but in the United States, clinical social workers are, I think, the largest group of therapists. And we each trained together to become Jungian analysts through the Interregional Society of Jungian Analysts. And the training, gosh, it takes, 8, 10, 12 years, something like that. So we mostly went through together. So we got very connected as a result of that process, kind of trying to get each other through training. And it was great to finish, but then there was a little bit of a sense of loss because we didn't have that shared purpose. So we would still talk on the phone and stuff, but it wasn't the same because you don't have that same kind of connection through shared intentionality. So, we kind of were looking for a creative project to do together. And I tapped them in late 2017. I said, would you guys ever want to try a podcast? And they both went, yeah, let's do it. So we initially said, well, let's try it for a year. Let's just kind of commit to a year and see how it goes. And it sort of took off right away. I can remember it started in April, and I think in maybe August, we had 10,000, or June, we had 10,000 downloads. I was like, what is going on? So it's just kept on growing, and it's been such a joy.
Has it taken over your lives? Do you have time for clients anymore?
Joseph and I still have very full practices, actually. But it's, it's opened up these other avenues because I've been able to sell my books. It's difficult to get a publisher for nonfiction without a platform. So the podcast kind of helped my dream come true. I've always wanted to be a writer, and this is now my third book, which sounds true. So
yeah. So, how did Dreamwise come about? Tell me a bit more about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the podcast, we always interpret a dream at the end of every episode. And of course, dreams are very important to Jung and a big part of our training as Jungian analysts. So we decided to create an online learning platform, which we did in 2020, called Dream School.
Yeah. Great
and
as
it's a 12-month self-paced program that kind of takes you through the basics of Jungian dream interpretation. It's still going. We've had thousands of people go through the program. We have, live events every month. I always do a live online dream seminar with Dream School students. There's all kinds of good stuff in there. It took us a while to put it together. We had to think about what are the key ideas? How do we structure it? What examples can we give people? How can we help people get better at doing this? Once we'd done that and it had run successfully for a couple of years, it was kind of obvious that the next step was to take all that and put it in a book. At least it was obvious to me. And then so we started doing that. We really based initially the book off of Dream School. But of course, the interesting thing about this is it's always an iterative process, right? So we put a lot of thinking into Dream School. When we started writing Dreamwise, there were these things that we hadn't talked about in Dream School. There were things that I felt we didn't go into enough depth with. There were ideas that had come into focus for me since. So there's a lot of new material in Dreamwise that's not in Dream School. We're now in the process of going back to Dream School and re-recording some of the modules to make it align with Dreamwise and include some of this really great new material.
Yeah. So what would you consider some of the new material?
Well, there's a chapter on emotion. So I would say that the content in Dreamwise is, 70% of it is straight Jung. Some important part of it is thinkers who've come since Jung who have added important things, and then there's a few things in there that are kind of innovations that the three of us have added. So, for example, emotions are so important when looking at a dream, and I find that I don't know how to approach a dream unless I ask. Well, I shouldn't say I don't know how to approach it, but there are many times when someone tells me a dream and the first thing I want to know is, well, what are the feelings in the dream? And what I realized when I was working on the book is that tells me something, but I couldn't tell you what it tells me. It wasn't an explicit process. It was an implicit knowing that I had. So someone would present a dream and I'd say, well, what are the feelings? I say, well, I was really scared. And that would clarify everything for me, but I couldn't say why. So it's a little bit like if you had to tell someone, if you had to write down, here's how to tie your shoe. It would be really hard. And you'd have to really think about, okay, what do I do when I tie my shoe? First you cross the laces, then you slip one under the other. And it would be difficult to convey to someone because at this point, for most of us, it's just implicit. So I had to try to reverse engineer what was I doing kind of intuitively with the information about emotions and dreams. And it was hard, but I think I got it. So there's a whole chapter in there on emotions that we really worked up. And there's a lot of examples. And, here's what you might think about if there's anger in a dream. It could mean this. It could mean this. Just see which way it might go. Look at the ending of the dream. And it was interesting to do that. I love trying to do that, trying to make things clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that when I listen to you on your podcast. You're very good at finding, as you just have done with the shoelace, a sort of a metaphor that really works well to sum up sometimes very complex ideas. Dreams can be, as you often say, complex. And they work, as we know, on so many different levels, from the straight psychological all the way through to something that's deeply archetypal. And yes. I think that's the rich source of the healing in the end for me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so in particular with Jung, was it dreams that you like to work with?
Yeah, I mean, I do find clinically that dreams can be so powerful. And, I'm actually in a graduate, a doctoral program right now learning comparative psychoanalysis. And I'm really appreciating that other schools kind of come at these defensive unconscious processes in different ways. I'm so glad to know. And there's something so powerful about the dream. So working with someone who's been stuck for a while, and then I say, you haven't brought in a dream in a while. Let's talk about a dream. And they bring the dream in, and there it all is. So I do find that dreams can really move forward a healing process. Of course, they can also be used defensively. People can talk about dreams because they don't want to talk about what they really should be talking about. But used well, dreams are such a source of wisdom.
Yeah, I think also other thing with the dream school, from what I understand from a friend who's been through your dream school, has said what she really enjoyed was the drawing of dreams. And as she said, now, if she wants to remember a dream, particularly a powerful dream, she only has to remember the drawing and it all floods back. It's captured something perfect. And as she says,
lovely.
I'm not an artist, but I love it. She's really got into it.
That's great. Yeah.
And I think there's something powerful about drawing dreams. When I was in Jungian therapy, that was one of the things I loved was being encouraged by my therapist to draw my dreams. And there's something, it captures that archetypal energy, I think, somehow, even if you're not a creative, openly creative person, you're still able to tap into a really powerful, deep flow that Jung got.
Yeah, it's connecting with that kind of primary process part of our brains. It's kind of, that's the thing about dreams, is they speak from that level of the psyche. And so they kind of just cut through right away all of the kind of conscious secondary process stuff. And drawing does that as well. So
Yeah. Regular listeners will know I always keep saying dreams are, your psyche knocking on the door. Are you going to open it and listen? Because it's all there should you choose. What else? Let's go back to the book, Dreamwise. What else did you find that you were adding in that you hadn't included initially into Dream School?
Mm-hmm. So there is Jung's idea of the dramatic structure of dreams. And so he compared dreams to, a little piece of theater, and you pay attention to the setting and you pay attention to the development and the kind of high point of the tension and then the resolution. And that is such a useful tool to kind of track the energetic arc of the dream. Because sometimes, especially if we get a dream with a really compelling image, we just want to focus on the image and we want to look at the, archetypal amplification. And that's great. But if you're not placing it within the context of kind of what happens in the dream, like how does the dream open? The curtain comes up, what's going on? And then at the end of the dream, what's happening? Like what has changed or shifted? So paying attention to all of that is great. Paying attention to whether or not there is a resolution can tell you so much, because sometimes there isn't. But there are some dreams, of course, that don't really fit that pattern. And so we talk in that chapter, we talk about other structures. So for example, I think sometimes if you have a multi-part dream, I always think about it with different scenes. Someone brings in a really long dream. It's like, 5 or 6 different scenes. You're like, oh, what do I do with this? But if you chunk it out like scenes, and then you look at what's kind of common between them, it's a little bit like a theme and variation almost, or I like to think about it like a diptych or a triptych, those medieval panel paintings. It's like maybe every scene is totally different, but you look at kind of what's in common between them, and that almost helps you kind of triangulate meaning. And then some dreams almost have a kind of structure like a popular song, like there's verse, chorus, bridge, verse, or something. You can look at the different scenes and see how they relate to each other. And there's some really great examples of those in the book. It sounds complicated, but it's a good tool for working with long, complicated dreams.
Yeah, I think the setting is always important. This is the chapter I think you call Theatre of Dreams. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that as a title, because it is a theatre. I know we all feel that we've entered a movie, but, sometimes the settings do shift quite weirdly. And that's the beauty of dreams. But they do have a meaning. Otherwise, we possibly wouldn't have chosen that. It's there at a deep symbolic level for us.
Yes. Yeah. The dream maker chooses everything very intentionally.
Yes. Tell me about the dream maker. I like how you called the dream guide the dream maker.
Yeah. It just kind of evolved organically as we were working on it. But I really love that too, because I think that, one of the dangers, I think, with this book is there's something that gets lost when you make something implicit explicit. And there's a way that becoming so methodical, offering a method, can be reductive. And I think Jung really wanted to avoid that. That's why he's so, I think, my fantasy is he was purposely vague and unmethodical about most things, because he wanted to encourage that you take it in on a holistic, kind of intuitive, implicit level. But then, of course, it can be hard to convey. So in some sense, that was the struggle that we had as we were writing the book, is not to strip it of the mystery and the depth and the nuance and the subtlety. So, whether or not we did that successfully, I'll have to let readers judge. But one of the things I really love about how the book turned out is that at its most foundational, it is about a relationship a relationship with the dream maker. And that is the mysterious other within who cares about us to send us a dream each night and guide us or surprise us or admonish us. So it's that quality of, when you work with dreams, you really get that, like, I could never have come up with that image.
Exactly.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And so there really is an other. Yeah. And, we quote in the book, the dream worker, Jeremy Taylor, he says, dreams always come in the interest of wholeness and healing.
Nice.
So that other within is your kind of constant companion. And that is really the focus of the book. Is there is a dream maker in there. I mean, it's up to you how you want to conceptualize that, but you can't deny that there's a dream maker in there as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And then here's an opportunity to develop a deeper relationship with it.
Yeah, you're reminding me of a fabulous lecture I attended. I want to obviously get them on our podcast. It was a university. It was a married couple based in a university that they've actually set up in India called the Newtons, Professor Newton. And he asks a very profound and philosophical question: who is the dreamer? And it's such a profound question. And I like your take as the dreamer being the dream maker. And they explore how much there is a dream maker, how much that dream maker is you. And I was thinking when you were talking about Jung's own guide, I think, was it Philemon was Jung's guide? Do you see your dream maker being similar to a guide in some way? Or is this separate for you?
Gosh, I mean, I don't have these big archetypal experiences that Jung had. I'm just a normal, everyday person. But yeah,
you're Lisa Marchiano.
But I mean, I do experience my dream maker as sort of there, and I experience, like, I feel, I don't know, like a duty or I feel a responsibility, to my dream maker. So no matter how busy I get, I try to make sure that my dream journal is by my bed. I try to make sure that I don't look at my phone the first thing in the morning. And, I try to honor that relationship imperfectly. I don't always do it. But I am aware that it's there, and my intention is to reach out to it and have a relationship with it.
Yeah. You've mentioned a few things that you like to do. I know that that's another part of the book. You've got some dream recall tips. Do you mind running through a few? Listeners are always interested in how to remember dreams. I think probably you're the same as us. It's probably the single biggest question we get. Yes. How do I recall my dreams?
Yes, it is the single biggest question that we get. What we did with that appendix in the book is literally just put together everything that we knew, everything we could think of, everything, we researched. And so, of course, the easy one is get yourself a dream journal, do it intentionally. Get yourself a special pen. I have a pen that has a little red light at the tip, which I really love, because then if it's dark, I don't have to turn on the light. I just grab my dream journal, keep it right by my bed. I've got that pen right there and I can start writing. I do prefer to do pen to paper, because I don't know, there's something about the mediation of a screen that just can kind of pull me out. Yeah. I mean, the other thing is that sometimes I lie in bed in the morning, I'm like, is there a dream? And I get my dream journal and I write, I didn't remember a dream. And then I start checking email, and something on my email makes me remember my dream. I mean, that does happen sometimes. But I try to have a little sacred space when I first wake up, so that if the dream comes through, and then write it down. And people say, well, I had a dream, but I didn't write it down because it wasn't really, it was just this short dream and it didn't mean anything. It's like, no.
Exactly, no.
Value every dream. Every dream is important. Even if it's just a little sense impression, write it down. I don't remember anything but the color yellow. write it down, because also the more you write your dreams down, the more your dream maker will come forward and you will remember more dreams. I also think it can be helpful to visualize remembering dreams. So before you go to bed at night, imagine yourself waking up in the morning, like with a vivid dream, and rolling over and writing it down. But there's a lot of other tips, including supplements. There's, I think it's, oh God, is it B12 or B6? One of the B vitamins, it's in the book. I'm sorry, I can't remember right now. But one of the B vitamins has been, there's research that says that it helps with dream recall. So sometimes when I really need a dream, I'll take a dose of B vitamins at bedtime.
Well, that is interesting. I actually haven't heard that. I've heard someone talk about magnesium, but I haven't heard about any of the B complexes. Interesting.
Yeah, well, there's a couple that are, but I think the best research is about the B vitamins, and again, I can't remember which one.
I will check Lisa's book, and I'll put it in the show notes for anybody that wants to have a quick try out of that. So a really interesting tip. So, anything else significant about the book that you're pleased with, that your dad went in there?
So again, we were trying to kind of make the implicit explicit. We were, it's so, listen, someone can bring me a dream, and I often am like, yes, I think it might be I wake up from my own dreams. I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea what that means.
What is that?
It is very hard to work with your own dreams. Yeah. And that is because the dream maker brings a different perspective. So we wake up, we have our ego attitude, and then the dream maker's there going, did you think about it like this? But it's just so difficult to get into a different, to abandon your ego attitude and find your way into this different perspective. So one of the things that we did was we created what we called the keys. And there are 69 keys throughout the book. And they're basically little prompts that help you apply each individual idea. So in some sense, there are like 69 different ideas in the book for working with dreams. And each one has its own key. And they're little prompts that you can apply to your dream. And it's like 69. Oh my God, do I have to go through 69 keys every time I have a dream? No, the keys are all listed in the back of the book. And what we actually recommend is when you're working with a dream, and some people say, when do I? Well, maybe on the weekend, you go back and you pick the dream that still has energy for you, that felt the most significant, the one that you want to explore, and just pick a key. Just start somewhere. I mean, I do think it's usually good to start first with personal associations, and there is a key for that. So that's kind of that's the first one to start with. But otherwise, just pick any key and see what it is. So let's see. Here's a key about disgust. And it says, disgust in dreams can point to feelings of shame and self-hatred or express unnecessary revulsion. And so the questions to ask are, who or what is your dream ego disgusted by? Could that thing be a despised and rejected aspect of yourself that now seeks acceptance and integration? Does the dream have a clear resolution? If so, did disgust help to motivate your dream ego in a positive direction? So, now that comes, in the context of the book, that comes with the discussion and some examples of the different ways that you can understand disgust in a dream. But you can just, and if disgust wasn't in your dream, pass that one over and pick a different one.
Wait till it comes
around.
I find,
right. But I find that, usually if you just try maybe 5 or 6, something starts to loosen up, you get an idea. So if you just kind of randomly pick the prompts or the keys and apply them to your dream, it will help. It kind of slows you down and helps you maybe feel your way into a different perspective.
Yeah, and I find the more we do this type of work, the more layered a dream can become. On following nights, you then get deeper and deeper as you explore what the psyche is trying to offer up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like the fact that it's not an image as well, that you're offering an emotion of some kind to look at, because obviously, like we know that there are, loads of encyclopedias out there. And yes, sometimes they're interesting and sometimes they do contain an archetype that might have a universal meaning. But like you, we always say, what does it mean for you, first of all? What are your associations with that? Because that's where it has to start.
Right, right. And archetypal amplification was one of Jung's real innovations in dream work, and it's an incredibly useful one. But it can be so exciting to get a big archetypal image in a dream that it's like, oh, let me run to the symbol dictionary and see what it means. But like you're saying, what does it mean to you? A good example is, and this we actually use this example in the book, because we talk about how personal associations have to come first. They have to come first. So when we were in training together, someone, I can't remember which one of us, but one of us presented a dream that involved bees. And all of us immediately started being like, oh, the archetype of the bee and honey and, the buzzing of the bees that accompanies the rising of Kundalini. And we're going on and on and on. And then the person presenting the case was like, this person has like one of those deadly allergies to bees and will die if they get stung. And it was like, oh. Well, I mean, that is important to know.
Exactly.
That changes things a little bit, So it's a great example because it doesn't mean that the archetypal stuff isn't also relevant. But boy, if you don't take that into account, that the bee represents something absolutely deadly to this person.
Exactly.
Fatal, right.
Yeah.
Then I think you've probably gone down the wrong road. So
yeah. I mean, as always, it's the balance, isn't it? It's finding that that sweet spot where everything can come together, but not always. I love how the three of you work and discuss the dreams and how you complement each other, bringing different aspects and then meeting together in unison. It works really well when you're doing your dream interpretation. We've got a dream, as you know. We often have dream of the week. So I've got a dream here from a listener. And so if you're ready, I thought we'd do Dream of the Week together.
Sure, love to.
But it's actually it's similar to one of your recent podcasts on marriage. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. They should have submitted this to you guys for the marriage episode. Anyway, it's from a woman in her 60s, and she's getting married she says, for the second, this is context of the dream. She's getting married for the second time. And she's getting married to a man who's roughly the same age. I think he's a bit older she says he's a bit older than her. And basically the dream is this: she wakes up and she finds that there is a fox lying on her pillow, and she's in the bed by herself. Her partner, who she's getting married to, is not there. And she shoos the fox out of the bed, and then she realizes that she's asleep, and she then wakes up and looks for the fox. It was such a real dream, she says. She looks for the fox in the bedroom, and she can't find the fox at all, and is left, she says, with this strange emotion. I'm just trying to remember what she said, because I haven't got it written down in front of me, of something that was sort of, she felt like a resonance had started within her. It was a physical sensation more than an emotion.
And I'd be so curious if you have it, like if the encounter with the fox felt mostly positive or negative.
She said that there was an ambivalence about it being there. There was a surprise that it was in the bedroom. And one other point I've just remembered, just looking down on my notes, is she often associates foxes with her father, because when he died, and she went back to his grave. Sorry, trying to read my notes here. Went back to his grave. There was a fox there. So it made her think of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of a bit of patriarchy.
Well, I think that anytime we dream of animals, and we have a little kind of set off discussion of animal dreams in the book too. They're always mysterious. It often feels like some kind of visitation, as this one certainly does. And there's always something kind of sacred about an animal. I mean, I think a fox is an ambivalent animal. They are mysterious. They tend to be seen, at dawn or in the evening. So they're sort of in that liminal time between night and day. They are known archetypally, as kind of preeminent tricksters.
Yeah, I was thinking of the coyote as the American equivalent of the British fox.
Mm-hmm. They're predators, and they're very, kind of persistent predators. For a little while, I kept backyard ducks, and the fox came every night and tormented those poor ducks.
Yeah.
There's that sense of, they're predatory. So it's interesting. So her context was she's getting married.
And the partner wasn't there that night, but the fox turned up. There's something quite wonderfully carnal, I think, about this as well. She said he was lying on the pillow next to her. It's like, wow, she swapped the husband for a fox, or the would-be husband for a fox. There's something deeply carnal, I think, and sexual about it that's quite interesting.
Yeah, and sort of, animal.
Yeah, animal instinct.
As it were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of some of the fox myths. There was, is it The Fox and the Grapes by Aesop? I can't remember how that fable goes now, but it's the fox is yearning for the grapes.
The fox tries to reach the grapes and tries various things and can't get them. And then says, oh, they must have been sour anyway.
That's interesting.
So that's where our expression sour grapes comes from. I also think that in Japan, and I might be wrong about this, I would need to do a little research, but I think that the dead can return as foxes. So they're often associated in different cultures with shapeshifters, which is so interesting in this dream because, like you said, did the husband turn into a fox? Yeah. Was the fox on her father's grave, sort of the spirit of her father returned as fox? So there is something, liminal or sort of otherworldly about this visitation. And I yes, yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I would be curious about the relationship with her father and what echoes of the father complex there might be in this new relationship. Yeah. And is that presenting perhaps some challenging dynamic in the relationship that hasn't been quite conscious yet? So, without the dreamer here to kind of find out more about that. But I'm curious about the link between the father and the new partner.
I was as well. There's something very much sort of Freudian, there. Yes. In that. The other bit I was intrigued about, and I'm interested in your take and Jungian take on lucidity, because that was a bit I found interesting, that she felt she was awake when the fox was there. And it was only after the woods when she woke up and was looking for the fox, she realised that she had dreamt the fox. It had all been a dream. Even though it was so clear and so lucid, she said that she thought she was awake.
Well, there's those dreams where we think we're awake, and then there are dreams where we know we're dreaming and can kind of interact. I know there's a lot of interest in lucidity and, I don't know, like online and stuff. And I think that it's kind of, there's a kind of new age interest in cultivating lucidity. A lot of times when I'm just kind of Googling around about dreams, a lot of it, or, a lot of what people are looking for is, how do I become lucid in my dreams? Yeah. And I have and I think this is typical of Jungians. We have a little bit of like reaction to that, because it's like, are you trying to let ego invade a place that is really meant for the unconscious to talk to you, and now you want to bring ego in and have ego telling unconscious what to do? It's like, I want to be lucid because I want to be able to like have sex with some hot guy in my dream, or I want to be able to fly or, leap over buildings because it would be fun. It would be entertaining. But there is an ancient practice of in Tibet, for example, where they cultivate lucidity as a way of preparing for death, because they it's sort of like when you're sleeping, that's it's kind of a trial entry into the bardo, as it were, and it will teach you how to respond to frightening images after death, so that you can kind of pass on. And I think that actually fits very well with a Jungian conception. I've heard of stories of lucidity where it was almost like a sort of active imagination while you're asleep, where you say engage a frightening dream figure while you're lucid, and instead of running from the figure or whatever, you're like, okay, I know I'm dreaming. I want to find out what I need to learn from this intruder, for example, and then you turn toward the intruder and say, what do I need to know? And then there's this dialogue that's happening that we might, consciously, we would, if we were awake, we would call it an active imagination, but it's a lucid dream. And then there's this really fruitful conversation between the ego, the dream ego, and this other dream content. So I don't think lucidity is bad. I just think it depends on what you're trying to cultivate it for.
Intention. I agree.
Yeah.
There's the co-founder of the DRI, Melinda Powell, has written a book called Lucid Surrender, which looks at how the enjoyment of being lucid in dreams without engaging the ego in the same way.
Yeah,
and so you're surrendering to it, because I think for a lot of people, lucidity initially in the early phases is, as you say, oh, let's go have sex, let's walk through walls. And then you realize that you can do other more powerful things with it without, as Melinda would say, engaging the ego in the same way. And in this case, this was probably, from the sound of things, more where she thought she was awake when she was still asleep. So it's a dream it's almost like a dream within a dream as such.
Which is really interesting, to have it be so incredibly real, and to dream that you wake up even when you're still sleeping. Yeah. That's an interesting phenomenon, because it makes me wonder, like, just one thing I might play with is what are you becoming conscious of? Because there's these sort of successive awakenings. There's an awakening in the dream. So, and that makes me wonder again, is there a dynamic in the relationship, perhaps, related to the father complex, that she is waking up to?
Yeah, I agree. It's like, or what are you being asked to wake up and have a look at? This is... particularly around the sort of the conjunctio of this sort of late of life marriage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Dream, thank you very much for the person who sent in the dream. It's lovely. It's full of depth and some interesting concepts. And thank you, Lisa, as well for joining me in a bit of interpretation. We're almost at time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. I've really, really enjoyed tapping into your wealth of knowledge about dreams, and particularly from hearing it from the Jungian perspective. Wish you all the best with your book, Dreamwise, and obviously regards and thanks to both Deb and Joseph for their involvement in the book as well. Thank you very much indeed for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on.
So, Dave, what did you make of it?
So much to say. First of all, I just really want to just share my pleasure at hearing that Lisa listens to the Dreamboat. I'm sure you remember, and we've said it to lots of people before, but obviously their podcast was a big inspiration for us when we first started thinking about the Dreamboat. So it's a real thrill to hear that they're listening, and I'm just really pleased about that.
Yeah, so hi guys at the Dreamboat at This Jungian Life. When you come to listen to this interview, yeah, we were thrilled that you have enjoyed listening to us as much as we have listening to you. But more importantly, what did you make of it? I mean, I think what they've done is amazing, but the book sounds quite fascinating too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, so much in there. There was a phrase that she used early on, which is a very familiar phrase, which is, making the implicit explicit, which is something that my former supervisor, Julie Scully, used to say to me when she was training me, and she supervised my MA work as well. It's something I've said dozens of times to my own students. When you're writing something down, it's about, it's quite difficult. Sometimes you just know, and you have that innate knowing or that intuitive knowing, and putting it into words can be a real challenge. So it was interesting to hear her talk about that. And it reminded me, almost in an inverse way, of something that Robert Bosnak, another Jungian dream worker, has talked about, which is, he writes about this experience of being in a dream group and somebody telling him a dream, and the first response that he has is, I don't know what to do with this, and it's like, it's always this first response. So why did I choose this career? And it's very, very familiar for me, because that is sort of the first response. It's a natural first response, and it's not a bad thing. And so much of being able to work with dreams is about being able to just sit with that not knowing, and then start to look at what feels familiar and what attracts your attention, and where the energy is, where the emotional load is, as she was saying.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And also their sort of development of the notion of what was the emotional content of the dream, which is something at the DRI we've sort of practiced now for quite a while. We often say to students, so what emotion are you left with at the end of this? What are you sensing? What's happening for you? And it's such an important place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. That idea that you and I have talked about a lot, that the imagery arises from the feeling, from the emotional content that's there.
Yeah. And what did you make about the dream maker?
I love the way she talks about it. It's a lovely phrase as well. And when I talk about dream work, I try to be as kind of welcoming as possible to people, having lots of different perspectives. And, when we're talking about things from a Jungian perspective, a transpersonal perspective, a spiritual perspective, some of the language can be off-putting for people. And so I'm always trying to find language which is just, at the very least, this is the unknown part of you. This is something within your psyche. And of course, there's, many, many levels and different perspectives on what that might mean to you. But being able to just say the dream maker, whether you see that as you or something outside of you, it doesn't matter. But it gives it that sense of it has a personality, which it certainly does.
Yeah, really nicely put, Dave. I also think it fits in with that notion of the Jungian theatre. This is almost like the script writer of the play in some way, or the director of the play. And so it fits very nicely with that Jungian concept that, dreaming is a theatre of some kind.
So another thing that really attracted me and really got me thinking was when Lisa was talking about the difference between kind of giving guidance and giving a method, and that Jung had deliberately avoided sort of being methodical and was a bit vague about things. And I was just thinking, it's the challenge of writing a book like this. And it's the challenge that a lot of people face when you put it into words. And I know Nigel, who taught us, has talked about this before as well. It becomes very fixed. And really, the essence of this is that you're not following a set of instructions. It's that you are learning to be with something. You're learning to respond, and it's a creative response. Mm-hmm. And it just really was making me think about how, when you give method, then that can easily become dogma. Like as soon as you go off the script, say, oh, well, you're doing it wrong. It doesn't say whether you're doing it effectively or not. You're just not doing it according to some previously given, well-trodden path that people have gone down before. And that really, can lose the creativity of it.
Yeah.
But what they've done in the book is they've given these keys, which are prompts, and I think that's I would say it's key. It's really important that this, the things that we find to help us open up the investigation and to follow something in a new direction so that we don't get stuck in our old patterns. And in that way, it's kind of the opposite of having a method that you have to follow absolutely strictly every time.
Yeah, no, I think there's so much freedom in that. If it's not reducible, once something gets reduced, as you say, to dogma, then the essence of it becomes fundamentally lost. And that was not Jung's what Jung wanted out of his work. He wanted it to be expansive rather than become, as you quite rightly say, dogma.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. It's lovely to see you again, David. Thank you for coming on board and giving us some thoughts on the interview with Lisa. And again, thanks, Lisa, and all the team at This Jungian Life for joining us, and looking forward for seeing Lisa in May in London.
Yeah, once again, it's 9th of May. And if you sign up for our newsletter at driccpe.org.uk, you'll be able to get the first notice of tickets. And if you look on our events page on the website as well, we'll continue to have information about the event as it comes up. But we hope to see you there.
See you there. Bye-bye. So, thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Don't forget to like us and leave comments on your favourite podcast platform. As I'm sure you know, that's the way we build an audience for the Dreamboat podcast, and also to spread news about dreaming. And as we said, there are many ways you can share your dreams at the DRI, the Dream Research Institute.
Yes, we have courses, events, and workshops, and we want to hear from you. So check out the show notes for links, or find us on Instagram and on our Facebook page and on our website at driccpe.org.uk. And if you want to explore your dreams further, or you would like to support us, you can join the DRI as a member for just £30 a year. As a member, you will get discounts for all of our events and short courses. You'll get our newsletter with latest dream research news, and we'll also be adding other special member benefits during the year. Of course, members' dreams will always be given preference for reading on the podcast Dream of the Week slot. So go to the link on the show notes and become a DRI member today. Keep dreaming and keep sharing your dreams.